Jambor, anong trabaho mo, kuya?
Construction.
Construction worker, I know that's one of the most requested jobs in trabaho. Guys, so do you think, kuya, kaya mo yung construction worker?
Well, di mo makataya.
Why? Bakit? Pagod?
Oo.
Kuya, hindi to taho.
Oh,
Mabigat, malakas.
magpapala ka. Mahirapan ka.
Oh, actually, that must be hard, the cement.
Oh, not easy, huh? See? Strong push, strong pull.
Strong push, strong pull.
See?
Wow! Hey guys, it's Jessica here, and welcome back to another Trabaho episode. For today's episode, it's one of the most long-awaited and one of the most requested, which is construction worker. Guys, the day has come where I'm really doing the hardest job. So yeah.
What can you say?
Honestly, that's what I'm afraid to, guys. Actually, I've never done this, right? I've done many different trabaho. But we've never done as physical as construction worker. I also am really worried that maybe I can't do it. I might end up going home, but I'll try. Obviously it's for safety, right? Because the first thing you have to think of is the safety. So I just really have to prioritize safety, I guess. I shouldn't be clumsy anymore like in my other videos. I should really be yeah, so that one. And I guess the workload, the workforce where you really need your muscles. Honestly, I'm just really excited to know how it really works. You know, because we always see different construction sites here in the Philippines, right? Especially in Manila. There's always
Eliminate all hostiles. Op 4 eliminated all.
always a construction being done somewhere, right? So I really want to know like what the process is like, you know, the system, the structure within.
I'm Architect Red, and this is Engineer Dennis.
Hi.
So I'm the project architect here, and he's the project engineer.
Okay, okay, okay.
Welcome here in one of our projects. So this is the BFRV project, and this is a 3-story residential project within a lot of 280 square meters, and it actually has a floor area of 306 square meters.
Oh, wow.
And
Big.
now, about 50% po yung accomplishment ng project po natin.
This one is 50%.
Yes, yes. So,
Okay.
welcome po dito, and alam kong ma-enjoy nyo yung pag-work dito with us.
Yeah.
For now,
Eliminate all of the terrorists. All friendly.
Gutom ako, babe. Paano na ako?
The amount of cases announced in the past few weeks is insane.
Eliminate
We've
all
seen a
hostiles.
huge increase in micro ATX cases like this open frame from Montech, Antec's new foray into the enthusiast market, and the Tower 200. We've also seen the ATX towers get increasingly complex and advanced, like Lianli's new vision for the stand-up platform. It's a narrow tower design. This video recaps some of the best cases coming out for the rest of 2023. We still need to review the cases individually, of course, but the market is booming with interesting options, and some are even cheap, like the Montech X4 at $65 for 6 fans, but of course some are on the very expensive side, like the Silverstone Alta F2 flagship case. Either way, we're rounding up everything we saw at Computex into one big best cases so far video. Before that, this video is brought to you by Thermal Grizzly and the CryoSheet graphene pads. These CryoSheets are molecularly stacked in the Z-axis to encourage vertical direct thermal transfer from the IHS to the cooler. CryoSheet pads are made to be easily applicable for a thermal interface and completely avoid paste dryout because it's not paste. It makes them particularly useful for long service life systems with minimal maintenance. They come in multiple sizes for suitability on the most common laptops and desktop CPUs, and you can learn more at the Thermal Grizzly CryoSheets at the link in the description below. This video today won't cover cases that have already launched this year, and we've probably reviewed a lot of them already, but instead it focuses on everything coming out over the next 6 months. Of course, we'll run a best cases piece after testing them all too, closer to the end of the year, but this will set the stage. It's an exciting time for computer cases, and we're going to start with ATX and go through micro ATX and mini ITX from there. The amount of cases at Computex again was unbelievable, so we packed it all in as efficiently as we can. Everything is also timestamped below for you. Let's get started. The Lianli SUP-01 case is up next. We're more excited about this one than most of Lianli's other offerings, most of which are variations on the existing 011 theme. It's not a bad thing, it's just not as fresh and new. The SUP is a completely new series for Lianli, with SUP standing for Stand-Up Platform, and they've built as narrow of an ATX case as possible while allowing a front-mounted GPU for a unique display of the most expensive part of most builds. Lianli took what it learned from the mini ITX cases it's made, and it applied that knowledge to make the smallest ATX tower it could, they say, while still adding unique features. The Stand-Up Platform makes some major changes with the computer case as we know it. First, most of the cooling is actually on the right side panel behind the motherboard tray, which we've never seen before, with the 6 fan mounts available to serve both GPU exhaust and the CPU AIO. And you'll likely need an AIO because there's just not great access to air on the other side of the case, the motherboard chamber with glass on the top and the side, and also just no space. It's a narrow chamber. The case is heavily perforated though. On the right side, there's just punctures everywhere. The entire thing is mesh. The front is all mesh. And even the back is perforated heavily while still retaining some rigidity for structure. Fortunately, this combined with the lack of pressure in the motherboard chamber will encourage some air ingress through the rear holes in the VRM area. Lianli will also be including a height-esque molded riser cable, but with an LED, and they're also using a mirrored tray in the bottom to provide some extra perceived depth. This is because the GPU has been relocated. From our perspective, this would be pretty cool with the GPU above it, but you mostly just end up reflecting cables right now. This case will require a lot of specialized testing when we get it, and it'll take some planning from the user to make sure it's built properly. They're giving you all of the tools to build a good or a really terrible computer with minimal hand-holding. But innovation can't come without some discomfort. As standard designs are departed, it's just up to Lianli to make sure the customer is educated on how to properly build in it. The SUP-01 will be priced at $150, and it's going to ship in Q4 2023. You can watch our video featuring Lianli's CEO and designer on the channel if you want more. As quickly as possible, we also had 3 other cases. The largest was the 011 Evo XL, which was detailed back in December, and is most interesting for on glass. It also showed off its 011 with RGB LEDs, and it has an optional kit to 160 and 216 fans. The final was its Lianli 011 Vision. A magnets and some glue to still have sufficient structural support. The top glass panel is a one-way mirror with the mirrored side pointed down for some extra flair, and it also has an adjustable and removable motherboard tray, taking some inspiration from the 216 previously. Now for the Phanteks NV5. This is Phanteks' smallest of the NV series cases so far, and it's shaping up more standard for mid-tower sizing.
Be ready.
Device deployed.
10 seconds remaining. 5 seconds to insertion.
Throwing a dread mine. Setting a dread mine.
Oh, did they glue that one? They actually glued one. Holy. You can see the hot glue on there. HD15, you can see how it's bent. This computer we're reviewing today cost $5,000. We paid for it ourselves. Yes, it did hurt, and it hurts even more because it runs at 100 degrees Celsius on the CPU and downclocks. Allow me to show you why. If you look at this thing, it took me 1 second to identify the problem. And the problem, not counting this fan that fell off in shipping, but we did resecure it for testing, the problem is Skytech installed this one so it's going that way, and this one so it's going that way. So there's no cooling at all happening on the fin stack. And this thing at $5,000 for the Skytech Mark 9 is just a really incredibly sad showing from a company that previously did pretty well. It was one of our 2 that we had recommended earlier this year, last year, for pre-builds, and they've fallen from grace a bit with this one. Especially because when Skytech sent us the test report for this, and it said CPU 100 degrees Celsius, their next question was, is there a problem with this system? Yes, there's a problem. Before that, this video is brought to you by Crucial and its DDR5 memory for Intel or AMD Ryzen CPUs. Crucial makes DDR5 kits that are deployable in Ryzen 6000 laptop systems and in Ryzen 7000 systems, or Intel Alder Lake, including both budget-oriented and performance-based memory modules. If you're building a new system, click the link in the description below to learn about Crucial DDR5 memory. So the problem apparently is not just, we thought it might be that they built it wrong, which is a problem, but it's at least one that can be kind of excused. There's enough people in the chain, okay, that can happen. But then when you get up to the CTO level, you get a test report. It shows this thing is thermal throttling, and they still ask if there's a problem. It tells us this is actually company-wide, where there are QC issues, there's building issues, actually in order, building, QC, and then apparently at the very top, there's escalation issues, where even once escalated, it's still not clear what the problem is without just directly saying it. So this is one of the most disappointing builds we've worked on, sadly. At $5,000, the reason we actually bought this, the backstory, is because it was just after the Alienware system review we did. And when we reviewed that, we thought, well, that was $5,000. Let's give $5,000 to a company that will build it right. And then we can show the giant contrast. Alienware, $5,000, someone competent, $5,000. Well, now it's gonna be Alienware and Skytech, $5,000. And a new challenger has arrived, question mark. Let's please edit in some kind of silhouette. That's what we're looking for. But for today, we're stuck with this. So let's get started with it. All right, so this thing, getting back to the core of it, first of all, 3090 Ti for the GPU. There's a 12900K under here. This cooler looks like it is actually bent as well, but it doesn't change the fact that their own test report, when it was still in the lab before it ever went into shipping, showed it at 100 degrees Celsius. So there's no escape for Skytech here because their own testing showed the problem. Anyway, 3090 Ti, 12900K, it's about the hottest set of components you can get right now today as we're filming. And at $4,600 or so, $5,000 with shipping and taxes and everything, this is about the highest end system you could have pre-configured for you. So for the fan, again, this fell off in shipping, but it fell off basically as it was installed. So we know the orientation. And once more, even if it somehow miraculously managed to go through a wormhole and flip upside down, it doesn't change the test report itself. So we just really want to make that clear for everyone. This has already gone through testing. Patrick reinstalled the fan and then took it back off to show you all what we got. But a fan falling off in shipping is not too bad. There was one other bit of shipping damage though. So this is clearly bent, very dinged up. Just shipping damage. So the real test here is not the shipping damage, it's what do they do about it. So we contacted Skytech. This was anonymously, they didn't know who we were. And we asked them, hey, the front panel was damaged. Can you help us? They replied within a day, which is awesome. So really good support there. And the reply was that they were willing to take the entire computer back at their expense, also awesome, and replace the panel. And taking the whole computer back makes sense because they're not sure what else was damaged, and replacing the panel makes sense. So that's all good. Now, again, the downside is the rest of the computer, which came out of their lab. All right, so for this thing, the way it's configured is there's 3 front fans for intake. These are actually 140 mil fans. They come with the Phanteks P500A, that's this case. And with 3 fans for intake, plus, if we move this one out of the way, a rear fan for exhaust, we end up with, obviously, a straight front-to-back airflow pattern. The top is completely perforated. There's no fans up there, though, so you'll have some air escape. That's okay. These fans should pull it through. Now, ideally, one of these fans would actually be on the front, not in the middle. It still works this way. It'll work a little bit better on the front. And then the other one should be in the middle, or you could just install them pointing opposite directions. But beyond the cooler problems, we can look at the GPU to see if there's anything else. So this is the 3090 Ti. We're going to go ahead and just disconnect this 12-pin and get straight into the teardown. Of course, as always, we're going to have the playlist for all these pre-built reviews in the description below. And then we'll also have the thermals and performance numbers coming up after this teardown section. I guess the thing I really can't get over is that they sent us the test report and then asked, is something wrong with this system? And we decided not to respond because there's times we'll kind of request a statement from a company and there's times we don't. And they're strategic, and this time we're not requesting a statement because they've kind of already made their statement. All right, see what they chose. So this is an Asus TUF 3090 Ti. I have not specifically tested the 3090 Ti version of the TUF. We did test the 3080 version of the Asus TUF. It was actually a really good video card. So it's a real card. It's not like they're throwing some HP-style OEM card in there, so that's good. When inspecting this, to try and figure out what went wrong to have this fan go like this, I noticed that the fins on both sides of this had scratching from where the metal clip was previously mounted. So someone at some point, either at Skytech or maybe Nocto's factory, more likely when they were validating this, had it installed properly, had it pointed the right way, and then before it left Skytech's build facility, and while they ran the test that should tell them this is problematic, that's when it was installed wrong. Somewhere in Skytech's process, it was flipped around. But at one point it was done correctly. It just didn't make it out the door that way. I think that might be bearing grease down in the center. I don't think. Yeah, that's not. That's like from the bearings or something. I mean, it was running at 100 degrees Celsius during thermal testing, so it might be the bearings starting to get some damage. Okay. Let's take a look at this now that we can see it clearly. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take the top of the case off, make this really easy. I missed a screw somewhere. Okay. Now we can show you the problem, part 2. So you can see here that the cooler itself is pretty tilted, and it's hard to know if that's shipping damage. It obviously doesn't affect that the thermal results were terrible. Maybe they messed up the mount in addition to getting the fans backwards. That would be very unfortunate though. This foam packing that was in here was in so tight though that we think it may have actually been too much packing, where it may have bent the cooler in the process of some kind of shocker vibe. So anyway, that's the story with that. Let's get this thing fully disassembled. Okay, so cabling. They've done well to cable manage here. That's a plus. They zip tied this huge stack of PCIe cables all together to the 12-pin converter adapter, and then USB 3.1 is fine. There's no glue or anything. 3.0 is fine, or whatever the nomenclature is today. What I'm looking for right now is if they've bent, glued, or only partially plugged something in. That 4-pin was a little bit loose, but is otherwise okay. EPS 12 volt way down here, past where the camera can see, is also fine. Although they did only, and this doesn't matter, but for purposes of being complete, they did not connect this additional 4-pin, so only the 8-pin was connected to the board, not the additional 4. It's not necessary. The power going through this isn't so much that it needs all of that headroom, but it's just kind of a small attention to detail thing. Oh, did they glue that one? They actually glued one. Holy shit, I haven't seen that. So you look down here, this is like a throwback to the Walmart overpowered PC. There's a blob of hot glue in there. Can you see the hot glue? So there's hot glue down at the base of this RGB connector. What's gonna happen when it comes out? Well, fortunately none of the pins came out with it, but you can see the hot glue on there. So I have not seen, I mean, I get it. I get why they did it, but I also don't like glue for a solution. I feel like there's probably something more elegant there that could be done, but I also understand they're trying to not have every customer calling with a need for help to replug that in. The rest aren't glued though, that's good. 4-pin's fine. USB's fine, all right, cool. Next step is the part I'm actually interested in, which is getting the motherboard out. That screw is loose, so that is not a good start. That screw's okay. This is kind of sad to me. It's more of like a, I'm disappointed because Skytech did really well the first time we looked at their system. And you know what, ultimately what this really means is a really good reminder that, and I think this is self-evident, but just in case it wasn't, that one build from one company doesn't necessarily reflect all of their quality. That's why we normally try to test their support system if we find a problem, which we did here, and other than the thermal issue, which they seem to be clueless to, they were very willing to help with the damaged panel, so at least there's that. Oh, that screw, check that out. This screw is like so loose I could probably move it with the magnet alone. Let's see. Yep. I don't have the actual driver in there. It was just spinning for a second with the magnet only. So 2 pretty loose screws. It was like, yes, some of these things can happen in shipping, but not all of them do, which is what I'm really trying to draw attention to is they do not get a pass for, oh, well, it was mishandled in shipping, because shipping doesn't install the fan backwards, and you start getting 2 loose screws, a dinged up cooler, missed one, and a dinged up panel, and it's like, yeah, some of those might be shipping, but not all of them are. You can kind of see now better if you look along this as a flat edge reference, and then look at the bottom of the D15 here, NHD15, you can see how it's bent. So that should help illustrate the problem a little better. What I really want to know now is how they did on the cooler. Okay. If you look at the CPU, all we're seeing here is the reason that contact frames exist, and we have videos on these now if you're curious. So the pressure distro you're seeing there is sadly standard for Intel. It's not a Skytech thing. The SSD is fine, it's flat. I was just checking to see if they bent it like a banana, to quote Kingpin. RAM is, socketed fine. It's all fully clicked in. They seem to have a screw tension problem with this system. That one's correct. I can't turn that one at all. Oh, there we go. A lot of torque, I can turn it, but yes, they got a couple loose screws in a few places, and then the cooler. But that's the build. Let's take a look at the back really quick. So tail management's pretty good, actually. They've done well to leverage the straps that Fantex has provided. Everything is cleanly routed, and it's user serviceable. So I would say overall good. This could be done a little better. Probably should be like this, but given that it's running real tight there, I think we can give them a passing grade on that. All right, so that's it for the teardown. We've seen enough here. Let's get into the benchmark chart.